Coming to you from the big island of Hawaii, it's the Songs and Stories podcast.
Songs and stories, keeping live music live. Songs and stories, songs and stories, keeping live music live. Songs and stories.
Joining me on the phone right now is Ryan Sabate, the lead guitarist and singer with Average Joe's. Aloha, Ryan.
How's it going, Steve?
Really good. Thank you for joining me on Songs and Stories podcast. Well, I've known you for a little while here, but why don't you give me a little brief history of Average Joe's and what your current lineup is?
Okay. Well, the band started actually in 2016. Myself, Scott Sayers, Jason Silva, we were actually friends before we were a band. We decided we actually had gigs lined up before the band was actually put together. So we put something together, and then we did several gigs, and then a few months or whatever down the road, we hooked up with Grayson Ishihara, who became our keyboard player. And then we went on a nice 3-year run or so with various singers. And then for various reasons, singers either left or didn't work out. So we decided to stay a 4-piece, and then we continued on still. And then to kind of make a long story short, Jason Silva, the original drummer, had to leave to go to school to get his master's degree in occupational therapy. And then we brought on Lee Cooper as a drummer for about a year. And then the whole pandemic thing hit. We mutually split with Grayson and Lee. And so now the current lineup is Scott and myself. And then we have a drummer lined up, but we're not going to announce who that is until we decide to go back playing live again, and that'll probably be at the end of the year because we're working on our record.
A little ways back before the pandemic kicked in, okay, you guys were like one of the busiest bands on the island here. For those that haven't attended one of the Average Joe's show, how would you describe it? What kind of music are you playing?
Our band is primarily a pop rock top 40 band. And that's all pretty much by design. My experiences with live bands around here, a lot of bands will play pretty much what they want to play, not throwing shade on any of the bands, but they don't really play what works. Naturally, you're going to want to play the music that you love to listen to. Yeah. Our philosophy is to kind of be different by design and please everybody pretty much. So if you come to an Average Joe show, you're going to get a lot of different genres, a lot of different eras, and a lot of different periods. Primarily, our band is pretty much from 80s on up because a lot of bands do a lot of classic rock. If you've seen the Joes, we're not the most prolific players, but because we do things a little bit different and we do a lot more current stuff, I think our reach is a little bit more. We reach a lot of the younger crowds, and you get a lot of fresh current music that's a lot high energy, danceable. So if you come to a Joe show, you're going to get a lot of music, but we still try and please a lot of the older crowd. Because what I've noticed at a lot of other shows, you either pleasing one era or not. So I've seen actually the older people walk out because a lot of new music, or the younger ones walk out because the older music doesn't appeal to them. Mm-hmm. So what we've tried to do is please pretty much everybody. Of course, you can't please everybody, but with our catalog, if you've seen our show, we do everything from Journey to Evanescence to Casey and the Sunshine Band to Kool and the Gang to Styx to Hanson. We do pretty much everything. I mean, not great, but we do everything pretty much well. And the way we structure our shows is to keep it flowing. So we do a lot of mashups. So we take a lot of the songs and mix them together, which is pretty unique on our part, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen some of the videos on YouTube and social media, and you the people get up and dance. They're having fun. So you guys are a real, party band, upbeat band, and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
For sure. And I think a lot of the secret to, I wouldn't want to say success, but I guess success is that we try to be accessible as much as possible before, during, and after the shows. We try to meet people before we play and while we play. My one saying is, we put on a show and we make sure that we're playing with the audience, not for them, because a lot of bands will go up there and punch a time clock per se. Mm-hmm. They'll go and say, okay, we play from 7 to 10. We'll just do our 2 sets and be done. But like for us, we make sure that everybody's involved. That way they stick around.
It sounds like you don't work with a set list. You kind of judge.
No, actually we do a set list, and the set list it's exactly opposite of what you're saying. A lot of bands will call out songs as they go. But for me, and it was kind of leading into what I was going to say, the reason why we do set lists is because it's simple science. If you do a set list, you kind of know what you're going to be doing for the show. instead of trying to guess. Because if you do the math between songs, and I see a lot of bands up there, oh, what are we going to do next? This and that. But if you know what you're going to do, that cuts out maybe 7 to 8 seconds in between each song. And if you add up those 7 to 8 seconds, you can add another 6 or 7 songs to your set. And it's simple math, because if you do more playing, there's more dancing. And if there's more dancing, thirsty people end up drinking. And if there's more drinking, the venue's happy. And if the venue's happy, you end up getting more gigs. And which is kind of why we're probably were the busiest band on the island before the pandemic hit. Yeah.
Since the pandemic hit, it looks like you guys have been working on a lot more original tunes. And it looks like I saw on Facebook today that you've dropped yet another single. Do you want to talk about your songwriting process?
Yeah.
And what you've been up to?
Okay, so with the pandemic thing, when it hit, because as you alluded to earlier in the thing, that we're the busiest band on the island, Scott and myself, actually, we've always wanted to record together, but because of our schedule, we were never able to, because we were so busy. We were playing at least 3 to 4 times a month every weekend, aside from our regular job. But when the pandemic hit, it was kind of a mixed blessing, because we're like, wow, now that we have this break, we can actually write a record, because there's no end to the break in the foreseeable future. So we decided to start writing. And when the first show that got canceled for us, we're like, wow, the break is actually pretty nice, because if you know us, there's a lot of preparation that goes into our shows because of the set list and the gear prep and the amount of promo we do. So my thing is that our shows actually start a day before the gig and it ends a day after, because of the amount of prep and cleanup and all of that stuff afterwards. But with the pandemic, we were like, we miss the people, but the break is nice. But going through the songwriting process, what happened was Scott and myself, we weren't actually in the same room. We have recording programs, and then we would shoot ideas back and forth via email. We call it the pandemic recording process, because we can't really get together in the same room and play. He would shoot me ideas and vice versa, and then we'd actually build songs around the ideas that we make. And that's such the joy of the technology nowadays, because you can cut a lot of cut and paste, and you don't really have to be in the same room and spend money on studio time. So it's really nice. That's
true. Well, speaking of your new material here, I've got Alive, a new single for you guys, a recent single for you guys, I should say, queued up. You want to give me the backstory on that?
Sure. What Alive was, with the whole pandemic thing, everybody's going through a funk right now. And the backstory behind that was kind of Scott Sayers, our bass player. His mom wasn't doing too good at the time, and she since has passed about a month ago. I was thinking about him, and pretty much everybody going through, like the unemployment and all of that stuff. You got to just be grateful that you get to live another day. It's kind of with the music scene too, because before the pandemic hit, I think a lot of people were taking it for granted that, the gigs are going to be there, your job is going to be there, all of that stuff. As we all know, it could end in a second, and it did. Everything grinded to a halt. Every day that you wake up, you got to be really grateful that you get another day, because tomorrow and anything is never guaranteed. So that's pretty much what the song is about. It's about being thankful that we get to live another day, we get to breathe another day, we get to go to a job the next day, get to play music the next day, so don't ever take anything for granted. So the song is basically about being happy to be alive.
Well, let's give that a listen to now. Here's Alive, Average Joe's, and you're listening to Songs and Stories.
To breathe again.
And we're back on Songs and Stories with guitarist, singer Ryan Sabate with the Average Joes. Let's dive back into the questions, Ryan, and tell me about how the band's music and stage show has evolved over the years.
The stage show, I think it all followed me around ever since I've been playing, like ever since I've started bands here. And that all kind of stemmed back from my days in the mainland, primarily Salt Lake City. I've learned a lot while I was away over there, and it's a lot different from the way things are done here. And to me, I actually make sure that our bands perform. Instead of just play music, we make sure we put on a show, because that's what people will remember. I always try to make sure that we're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. And that's pretty much the philosophy behind putting together the shows and stuff. And the set list is 100%. We make sure that the set list flows. I have a simple formula with the set list, like not too many slow songs. You never start a set off with a slow song. You never do two ballads back to back, and simple stuff like that, just to keep the shows flowing. And then all the little extra stuff that, if you've seen our shows, that we have, like running video, we have, we bring our own little extra lighting. Our stage is really neat and clean, because it kind of, if you show up with a neat stage, it shows that you care, and then that's part of the presentation. If people walk in and say, hey, these guys, their stage is really neat. What we try to do too is, when we form the band, is we try to bring an arena show to a bar. That's basically what Average Joe's thinking is. So, we try to put on a show and put like a big arena show in a bar as much as we can, just to give them an experience. We try to make sure that it's something that everybody can experience, not just listen to.
That's hard to find with most bands that are that professional on that same level that you guys do. Played practically the whole island, right? I mean, you've been in all the venues and everything like that. But I'm sure you've found some challenges being a musician here on the Big Island. Do you want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, I think for me with Average Joe's, most of it was logistics, as far as making sure everybody's schedule click. I mean, pretty much with this band, I've had it pretty easy, because I didn't have to really shuffle shows or anything, because I present a date to everybody, and it was pretty much a go from the time I've got the date. So the guys are really easy to work with as far as, planning shows, because like I said, everybody's pretty flexible, and because everybody has jobs too. So, this band right here was never about money, because this is something that we get to do and don't have to do. So the money part was never an issue. As a matter of fact, in Average Joe's, it's never even discussed. If we can either do a gig or not, free, for $1 or $500 or whatever it is. It's never discussed or argued about. So that was the nice joy of having this band, because we all had jobs. But like I said, the hard part was just making sure everybody was available. So that's pretty much the biggest challenge.
Oh, okay. Well, with several of the venues now open, do you have any plans to start playing live again?
I think our focus has shifted ever since the pandemic hit. Like I said, we decided we're going to work on the record and shift focus totally on that. We're actually going to try and gun for a Hoku this year. The record has to be on sale before the end of the year. I guess that's one of the requirements. So we got to make sure that it's done by then. So right now, gigs are kind of on the back burner. But at the end of the year, we are going to start gearing up to get going to play live. So we'll probably be back maybe in 2021, or Scott and I had discussed that we're going to make sure that we come back when everything's 100%, because if, you've seen the Joe show, we feed off the crowd, and with the pandemic rules, it would never be the same, so, like I said, we're not in any hurry, and plus we don't want to take a risk, contracting the virus and stuff like that. So we just want to, keep our distance. And when we're ready to come back, everybody will know. Right.
Well, let's talk about the new album and the track I've got queued up next, which is called "Play That Disco," which I believe is the title for the album, right?
It's the title track to the record.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, this is a funny story, because we promote a lot, and there's various groups on Facebook and Instagram and stuff that we promote, and that's one of the requirements about being in this band. We got to make sure we do the offstage work too. So we would promo a lot on our Facebook page and stuff. And then all of a sudden, some people that knew us started commenting, because if anybody knows Scott and I personally, they know that we're like heavy metal fans. Scott likes Rush and Iron Maiden and Dream Theater and stuff. And I grew up on 80s metal, which is a lot of Van Halen and the MTV Rock Rat and Motley Crue and, all of that stuff. So somebody had commented, and it was kind of a back and forth for a few weeks about Average Joe selling out because we were not keeping true to our rock roots. But they didn't what they fail to realize is, you can play all the rock tunes that you want to play, but you'll play to an empty venue, or you'll play one gig every year. That was our whole different by design philosophy. We're going to play what works and not play what we want to play, because if you want to keep playing, you got to make sure that you please the people and have patrons coming back. Because if you don't draw, the venue won't have you back. And if you, like I said, if you've seen an Average Joe show, and a lot of people have, they know that we draw pretty well when we did. So our philosophy works. That person he kept commenting on our Facebook page, making, snide remarks about the band being sellouts and playing disco music and all of this stuff and top 40 and pop, and, oh, you're not being true to your rock roots and stuff. But little do they know, they come to an Average Joe show. I'm going to put my spin on a lot of the songs, and they get a lot of 80s widdly in there. He ended the comment. So Scott had kind of pulled me back and said, don't even respond to this guy. Just give him a thumbs up. And anybody else who comments, of course you're going to get haters. That person ended with the comment, "Play that disco." So Scott and I had decided to run with it. So we're like, okay, play that disco. Okay, so our production company is now going to be called Play That Disco Production. Our studio is going to be called Play That Disco Studio. And our record is going to be called Play That Disco. The title track is going to be called Play That Disco. So sure, you can make fun of us and tease us. We'll write a song about you and we'll run with it. And guess what? We're going to keep playing. But so that's kind of the story behind it. Anybody wants to make fun of us, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. While you sit at home and, on your keyboard trolling us, we're going to be playing. So, and we play pretty much every week. Right. Our formula's working, I think.
Good for you. And let's play that disco.
All right. Enjoy, everybody.
A spin right now here on Songs and Stories.
When you're playing grudge, like a kid in the
Okay, I'm back here on Songs and Stories and speaking with Ryan Sabate from the Average Joes. Thanks for hanging with us, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
We're doing here. It's a new podcast and trying to cover all the music here on the island, one group at a time here, and I appreciate your time. You just mentioned earlier in the show that you do a lot of promotion here on the island. Yeah. And what have you found is the best way to promote your music?
Of course, with nowadays, I come from an era in the 80s where you had to do flyer wars. You know, you had to go and staple flyers on the telephone poles and put them on people's cars. And if your rival band put them up on a pole, you covered their flyers with yours, you know, that stuff. So nowadays, it's so easy because you have social media, you have internet, you have all of this stuff. So we're heavy on the internet right now. And you know, with past band members, and I would stress it. And that was my biggest thing. You know, it's so easy to do. You can copy, click, and paste. That's all you got to do. I'm not asking you guys to run for president or anything like that. The promo part is very essential because my saying, and everybody's seen me say this a million times. If you want to fish, if you want to eat, you got to fish. If you don't fish, you don't eat. So I've seen a lot of bands out there that don't promo and just show up and play, don't draw well. And, you know, sure. And that's why it's called fishing, not catching. You got to cast a million times before you catch one fish, you know? And that's I'm a big advocate on promoting. So anybody that joins my band or joins Average Joe's, they're going to be required to promote. And that's the bottom line. And also another thing that I found, you know, maybe so much not advertising the band is like I alluded to earlier, it's being very accessible, you know, before, during, and after the shows, because that counts. So if you make friends before the shows, you're accessible during the shows, and you give them a good show, then what we make sure that we do is during the breaks on our show, which, you know, we take one break, I make sure that every single band member goes out and thanks as many people that they can in the bar, get to know them, give them a card, give them the address to the band pages and stuff. And then after the show, after we're done, we make sure after we're done tearing down, we make sure we meet and talk to as many people as we can, because what happens is those people like our shows, they'll tell a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And next thing you know, you get followers and people that are regulars to your shows. And in Kona, we get a lot of that. We made a lot of friends over there, and we made a lot of friends from other countries and across the world. So if you look at our band page, we're relatively a relatively new band compared to a lot of the bands around town. But if you look at our pages, we have a lot of follows and likes and stuff because of that very reason. We promo hard and we make sure we're very accessible. Some people in the band, maybe that's not their thing because they're, you know, shy or they're not people persons. But I make sure that the ones that can talk and not afraid to talk to people, I make sure that they get out there and, you know, get to know people and basically kiss babies and shake hands. You know, so I always, you know, when we hit our breaks, I always tell the guys, okay, guys, I'm about to run for mayor, so I go out there and make sure I thank as many people as I can, you know. So
wow, those are some really good tips, especially for somebody looking to start a band here on the island.
It's very necessary. That's why I really shake my head when I see, you know, bands and stuff. You know, if anybody listens to this, I'm not throwing shade on any other band. This is just the way I work, and it's necessary. So, you know, I shake my head when bands take breaks and they go in their little corner and drink their beer and whatever, and not thank the visitor from Michigan or the visitor from Alaska or the locals there. You know, you gotta go be accessible. You gotta thank everybody before, during, and after shows, and make as many friends as you can, because like I said, if they like you, they'll tell everybody about it. And that's pretty much how the Joes took off. You know, they tell a friend of a friend of a friend. And of course you got to put on good shows too. So that's part of the promotion deal.
Absolutely. One of the things before the pandemic hit that I scratched my head at and couldn't figure out was a lot of bands, and theater venues too, and promoters on and off the island would create these elaborate posters, and they would put them up 2 or 3 weeks before a show. And I'm thinking, oh no, you know, with the weather that we have here, and that things that, and then they don't pull them down. And I'm thinking that's a lot of traveling around the island. You got to go to the copy shop and print up all these, and then have somebody design them. And you've got social media there; it's free. You know, why not exploit that?
And that was one of the kind of headaches that I had, you know, with some of the past band members. You know, it's like, man, it's so just copy, click, and paste. That's all you got to do. Mm-hmm. You know, sure, I mean, maybe it's not your thing, but you can reach people that I can't, or Scott can't, or plus such member can't. So you have a you have a group of people that we can't reach. So if that's your job to reach those people. Sure, they may not come, but like I said, that's why it's called fishing, not catching.
Right.
Cast your bait out. If they bite, they bite. If not, at least you tried. Better to try and fail than not do anything at all.
Well, it's a perfect segue into my next question. So how can folks find you and keep up with your music and what you guys are up to?
Go to the Average Joe's Band Hilo 2.0 page. That's where we're at.
And that's on Facebook, right?
On Facebook, yes. And then there's another one, Average Joe's Band Hilo, that has a bunch of stop signs on it. So don't go to that one because that's the old one and it doesn't have a like button. So if you go to the 2.0 page, that's where we're primarily at.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can look up Scott Sayers and myself on Facebook, and then because we really promote the band even while we're not playing, and then our Average Joe's Band Hilo Instagram page, and then we're on Twitter as well.
Make sure to put some links in the show description for this podcast in particular, so folks can find you easy. Just click on that and they'd go right to your Facebook page or wherever like that. We're about ready to wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
What my wish is, and I think I've posted this before on Facebook and Instagram, my wish is that this pandemic thing was a real eye-opener. And my wish coming out of this thing is that the venues, the musicians and bands and artists, and then the patrons all appreciate what we have, because like we've seen, it can be gone in a second. So we all need each other to make this thing work. My wish is that the venues promote all bands, big or small or whatever, promote who's playing this week, who's playing next week, whatever. It's not hard to do. Make live music a important part of your thing, not just background music or something that's happening, so because the musicians work really hard to do what they do. Now for the musicians, my wish with them is make sure you guys, that's kind of what we talked about earlier, make sure you guys put on good shows. Don't just show up and punch a time clock. Make sure you please all the people there, not just your little crowd or people that, try and reach as many genres and eras as you can. Put on a show, give them something to see, because the patrons that go there, they pay money, they take time out to see you, whatever. Sure, they may not pay a cover or whatever, but they're buying drinks, they're buying food, they're taking time out of their schedules to come see you. So make sure you put on a show and give them something to see, and maybe hopefully even come back and return to come see you again or patronize the venue. And then for the patrons, I really wish that you guys would actually go out and support all of these musicians and the venues, because the musicians work really hard at doing what they do. So they would really appreciate, your support, because some of them actually do music for a living, and they kind of, they need shows and stuff like that. So, and it actually makes you feel good when people show up to your shows and, it gives you something to play for. Like, hey, there's people sitting in that seat. I'm going to put on a show for them. Just basically we all need each other to make this thing.
Perfect advice. Thank you so much, Ryan. And thanks for being a guest on Songs and Stories. Me. Yeah. Well, say hello to the band for me, and I hope to see you back in the clubs real soon, and looking for the new record, and good luck with next year's award ceremony.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for doing all you do for the music scene. On behalf of the Average Joes, I appreciate everything that you've done, and a lot of the stuff that you've put up there for the band has really helped us, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks again, Ryan, and we'll speak to you soon.
Right on, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Songs and Stories. You can find episodes on Apple Podcast and listen or download for free. New episodes are available every Thursday. Songs and Stories is produced by Big Island Music Magazine. Find us on the web at bigislandmusic.net. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. I'll see you next week on Songs and Stories. Aloha.